Hey, welcome back to 24 Hours Inside. My name's Dima, and today I'm here with
Ross Barkan.
So Ross, I've known you since high school, and you've done a lot of stuff. You've progressed throughout your career in different areas, so just tell us a little bit where you are right now and how you got there, and we'll work from there.
Sure. So I am a journalist and a writer, first of all. I've written for many news publications for a number of years now since graduating college. I've also written some fiction and had an interest in that area as well. I'm actually currently doing something new, which is running for office in a state senate race where I grew up in Brooklyn. So that's it. As of last week, so that's an entirely new venture, and that's kind of radically changed my life already. But before last week, I was doing journalism. I was contributing to a number of publications, including the Village Voice, the Guardian, and a bunch of others. I still plan to do writing and journalism throughout the course of the campaign, but there's doing probably less of it than before, just because my time commitments aren't.
Would you be focusing on your competitors, or be just kind of what you're doing right now, which is politics in general?
So it's a tricky question. So in terms of my journalism as a candidate, you're in a tougher place because obviously as a journalist you're covering what you're doing, and now you're actually in the story. So I think for me, one thing I've been talking to people about is writing about my experiences as a candidate, kind of a first-person look at, well, here's what it's like to have to raise money, to have to plan events, have to go talk to voters, to knock on people's doors, do all these things that people don't really know about, or if they know about them, they don't really have a good sense of how they're done.
And this is the first time doing it, right? So
It's the first time ever running for office, correct? Yes.
So do you have how have you gathered the knowledge of what it takes to do it? Is it based on who you research, the articles you've written? Does that gather more insight?
So definitely being a journalist who's written about New York and national politics for a long time, for really the past 5 years. I covered all types of campaigns. I covered the presidential race, I've covered local races, so I definitely learned a lot about the issues, about what's going on, and about the political players, and who's doing a decent job and who's really not.
Yeah.
And that did prepare me to do this. I think without my journalism background, running for office would not have been possible. That being said, very few people go from journalism into running for office, so what I'm doing is pretty unconventional.
Is it the other way around, or just saying in general? This is
just typically, most people run for office. They're usually they're on the staff of an elected official, or maybe they're some sort of civic leader, or they've been involved in the local scene for a very long time, whereas I've been involved in a different way. I've been covering it. So I've not been in political clubs. I've not been working on anyone's staff or anything like that. I've been a journalist. So you don't see what I'm doing happen very often. So that's definitely both a challenge and something that's exciting to me.
So you're kind of like a concerned citizen who's saying the next step further, you're like the current people who are running for office, or current people who are in office, you just aren't doing jobs you consider acceptable, or even just normal, I guess, in that regard. They've been making promises they can't uphold. They've been just talking, and now you're like, hey, I've researched into other people out there. I have a better insight of what's going on. You guys are tied to a party, so you can only do certain obligations, and you're tied to those people, to certain groups that you're part of, and you're a freelancer getting in there, so you have no obligations to anyone except for you and what you think is correct.
That's absolutely correct. I am someone who's been very critical of most politicians and the party leaders in the city, from the mayor, the governor, state legislators, you name it. So yes, I come into this without being beholden to no one except myself and my values, and the people who my supporters too, who I'm going to listen to. And I've been lucky to already have a nice groundswell of support, have volunteers coming out, which is very exciting. And it's definitely definitely a different way to enter the political arena. I mean, typically what you do is you would spend many months sort of plotting a run, talking to a lot of different power players, so to speak, and then kind of trying to figure out, well, who's giving me money, who's supporting me, who's not. Do I get this labor union's endorsement? Do I get this politician's endorsement? For me, it was like, I was getting frustrated for a long time, and it's like, you know what? I think I'm better than a lot of these people. I think I have a vision. I think I have something to offer, and I'm gonna try it. And it very well may not work out. I have a very tough race ahead of me, but I think it's also a winnable race.
That's good. So what are your values that you mentioned?
Sure. So the campaign is about universal health care. I believe that New York State can have a single-payer health care program. There's been a bill in the state legislature that has been blocked repeatedly from coming up for a vote. I think that should be brought to a vote, should be passed as a law. I believe in protections for tenants, for protecting the housing we have, having more affordable housing. I believe in cleaning up the corruption in Albany. There's a lot of problems in regards to how elected officials conduct themselves and how money is spent and how the political process runs itself. And there's a lot of other things I'm going to talk about too in this campaign. Transportation is a huge part of the campaign. We all know the subways are not running at all or the way they should be. I mean, we're seeing a catastrophic failure of the subways, of the bus system,
and
of
the blame keeps getting passed around as well.
Right. And people are kind of throwing up their hands saying, well, what do we do? And I say, well, it's a state authority. It's actually the New York State's problem. I think people think it's just a local issue, but really it's a statewide issue, and it's the governor who really controls the MTA, and I believe in holding him accountable, in holding the state senate accountable. That's why I'm running for the state senate, because there's a lot of things people in the state legislature and in the governor's office can do that they aren't doing, so transit's a major part of this as well.
So let's say you get elected, what power do you have, once you get in there?
So I'd be a state senator. There's 63 of them in the Senate. So you're in the upper chamber. It's a bicameral system, so 2 chambers. And if I'm elected, I think I'll be in the Democratic majority. Right now, there's a very thin Republican majority. So if Democrats are in control, and I've been a critic of Democrats, but I am running as a Democrat, I believe a lot of legislation can be passed, like single payer, like more protections for tenants. I believe that I myself, I will try to hold the MTA accountable as much as I can. I want to hold hearings. I want to audit the MTA because they really don't know how to spend their money. And I want to force the MTA, through the power of my bully pulpit, and hopefully with organizing my colleagues, into making the investments that matter, like investing in a computerized signaling system that really make the trains run on time.
Okay, so you were saying how you're going to hold the MTA accountable for the actions by calling in legislation and gathering support to see what you can do.
So I mean, one thing I want to do is the state senate has oversight powers, in regards to the MTA, because the MTA is a state authority. It's in essence controlled by the governor, but board members are appointed by both the governor, but also by the mayor and other people. But the point is, the state senate has not held a hearing dedicated to the state of the subway. It's not one hearing. You have hearings. You can call politicians to testify. You can call experts to testify. You can really air things out in the public. And that's really the first step to really mobilizing both opposition to the way things are currently done, and also making sure regular people understand what exactly is going on. That's a problem too. Transit's very complicated issue. People don't realize that the MTA, is not investing money again in the computerized signaling network that could really make a huge difference. It's going to take years. It's going to cost billions of dollars.
I think you quoted something around 50 years, something like that.
Right. So at the pace they're doing it, and it's on the L train, has a computerized signaling system. Another line they have, I'm not even entirely sure. At the pace it's going right now, it'd take about a half century, which is insane.
Yeah.
And so what I would argue, if I was an elected official, and I'd be very vocal vocal about this. I mean, having protests, hearings, organizing people, really applying pressure, because you can make change by using the power of your office to really force people to become aware of what's going on, and to even scare people like the governor and say, look, if you aren't going to do anything about the trains, your political career will be in jeopardy.
Yeah.
So I would hope to, I'm going to offer a detailed transportation plan throughout this campaign. And if I'm elected, transit's going to be a number one priority for me, and really applying the full weight of my office and organizing coalitions and getting people out there and making people understand just exactly what is going on.
Because after all, millions of people ride the subway on a daily basis.
Exactly.
And no one's really doing anything to change it. It's become a monopoly in the regards that it's broken. Like, well, if it's broke, there's nothing we can do. We'll just take a different train or walk. Or what are you going to do? Take Uber?
Right. And there's no, there's no long-term solutions being offered, and that's a problem too. And
or even short terms. There's nothing really short term where you got a shuttle bus for a day, but that adds even more time to commute. It's not a problem solved. It's just issues among issues.
Right. So the shuttle buses are inadequate. I mean the bus system in general is really inadequate.
Yeah.
And it comes down to both spending more money, but spending money in the right ways, investing in the right technologies, and realizing how the MTA wastes money too, which again, there hasn't really been a comprehensive study on why capital costs from the MTA, construction costs, exceed other cities and other countries. I mean, you go around the world, they have world-class subway systems, whether it's London, Moscow, wherever.
Even China, doesn't matter.
I've
been to China, it's 16 cents. Their MTA system is like airport. It's beautiful, it's clean, cheap, convenient, gets you anywhere you need to go.
If the government cares enough and is smart enough and takes this seriously as the crisis it is, we can turn this around. I really believe that. But right now, most politicians are really not acting in the public interest and are not doing what it takes to make change, and that's a big problem for me.
Okay, so let's move a little back to your past. So before, I believe you were studying law, right?
So I took the LSAT, so I never went to law school or anything like that. So I graduated, I actually studied to be an English teacher. I graduated Stony Brook University. I substitute taught for a little while. I was a student teacher, but I always liked writing, I always liked journalism, so I fell into a newspaper job in Queens. That was my first job out of college. I did that for a year, and then I went to work at the New York Observer. I covered the 2013 mayor's race, which was a great experience for me. Got to deal with Anthony Weiner a lot. Have many stories from that time. And I worked there for a while, I enjoyed it, and then I covered the presidential race for a bit, covering Trump and Bernie Sanders and a lot of these people. And then in 2016, I decided to quit the Observer because the editor at the newspaper was involved with the Trump campaign, and I felt like he was lying to staff and wasn't being honest, and also should not have been involving himself in the campaign. Yeah. And the reason this was happening is the New York Observer was owned by Jared Kushner, who is Donald Trump's son-in-law, and as of now is a senior advisor and an integral part of the Trump White House. And so, this decision to leave wasn't so much about ideology, it was really about, I was a reporter at the time, and I was told that our newspaper would not be involved in the campaign in any way, and then I found out our editor was involved with the campaign, so I said it's time for me to leave, and so I did.
So you're basically what you're saying is you're a moral person who's passionate about his job, and now you want to put that out there by running for state senate. Kind of.
I'm very passionate. I consider myself a moral person. I think I'm earnest. I believe in campaigning on issues. I'm not going to be running a negative campaign. I don't say that naively or say that because I'm lying. I say that because the best types of campaigns are ones that really are run on a message that are convincing people to vote for you, not simply to vote against someone else. And if you look at successful campaigns, certainly on the presidential level and down, when you motivate people that's how you win.
And actually have a plan as
And
well.
have a plan, have a message. You know, people have to understand why are you running, and if you can't tell them in a few sentences why you're out there, you're doomed.
All right, Ross. So I want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And you want to have a final message to say to people and where they can donate for your campaign?
Yeah, so I would say if you want to get involved in my campaign, you go to rossbarkan.com, ROSS Barkan, BARKAN.com. Click on the contribute button. If you want to volunteer, rossbarkan2018@gmail.com. I'll add you to the volunteer list. It's growing now. The campaign actually has a lot of momentum, and we're really building up, and it's going to, I think, bring some real profound change to Southern Brooklyn. So I look forward to anyone who wants to get involved going over and doing that.
Cool. Thank you.
All right.
Good night, guys.